It is In the Zone with Anthony. I appreciate the reception I'm getting. It's been a while since I've been in the zone. And we have a lot to get to. Trade talks, Dabo Sweeney, and how about Lailani Armenta? I know you're saying you never heard of her before, have you? Well, you will get introduced to her today in the zone. As Jackson State's Lailani Armenta becomes the first woman to score an HBCU game. That's right, you heard that right. Oh, did I mention the school? Jackson State. Lailani, Jackson State. Right, you got it. Yes, that's the school that Deion Sanders coached at. Anyway, while Jackson State's former coach Deion Sanders saw Colorado fall to 4-4, his former school was making HBCU history while winning its sixth game in 2023. Kicker Lailani Armenta became the first woman to score in an HBCU game when she kicked 3 extra points in the Tigers' 40-14 win over Arkansas Pine Bluff on Saturday. Armenta, a freshman from Ventura, California, is a soccer player and is coming off an ACL injury. And what we're going to do, I'm going to read this tweet. It says, Jackson State football makes history as kicker Lailani Armenta becomes the first female to score a point in an HBCU Division I football game per the Tigers. Ridgeland grad DJ Stevens and Canton grad Jacobian Morgan also dominate. But I have some soundbite from this historic moment from the newsroom there in Jackson. So let's let you hear how this played out.
It is the two-time defending SWAC champion. The Tigers should be happy about that. It's an accomplishment. But if JSU wants to make that 3 in a row this year, they're going to need to get by with a little help from their friends, as the song goes. FAMU still undefeated in conference play, so Jackson State, having 2 losses, has to at least win out the rest of the season to even have a shot. This includes today at the Arkansas Pine Bluff team that could be taken for granted at 1-6, but that would not be wise, and the team knows that. Final road game of the year, and guess who else knows that? Ridgeland graduate DJ Stevens, the only JSU preseason SWAC first-team offensive member, adds yards after catch for the 70-yard touchdown on the second play of the game. Then Jacobian Morgan, the Canton grad, in at QB again this week for the second week in a row. Wants more, finds Hayden Hagler, who finds the end zone. 13-0 Tigers. And if it works, keeps doing it. Stevens, open, takes it in. He had 3 touchdowns on the night. And a big moment here as kicker Lailani Armenta put the PAT through the uprights to become the first female to score a point in an HBCU Division I football game. She made 3 today. We'll have the full story with her tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Dylan Wasson did have 2 field goals as Jackson State wins 40-14.
So there you heard it. In their 40-14 victory, yes, Lailani Armenta kicked 3 extra point field goals. So yes, definitely want to give it up for her. So as we move on with this story, Armenta against Bethune-Cookman was out of necessity. The Tigers' usual kicker, Gerardo Beza, had been injured in the Texas State game. All-American punter Matt Noel was injured in practice the week leading into the game. But yes, that was the history that was made as Jackson State's Lailani Armenta became the first female in HBCU Division I history to score points in the form of kicking field goals. So definitely an accomplishment there. And in some more news, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the HBCU scene since it has been a while since I've been concentrating on HBCU. Uh, FAMU, which is Florida A&M University, enters Saturday driven not to be the latest SWAC HBCU homecoming football game upset. Homecoming is an excellent time for alums and students to fellowship over the beloved university. It's a weekend-long period of festivities, parties, and networking opportunities. The grand finale of it all is the football game. And the biggest no-no, especially at an HBCU homecoming, is losing the football game. All of the jubilance surrounding campus will then be soured, sending traveling alums home and students to their dormitories disappointed. There has been a trend of spoiled Southwestern Athletic Conference homecoming games lately. Jackson State lost to Alabama State, while Bethune-Cookman fell to Texas Southern in Week 7. So the Florida A&M Rattlers football team, ranked number 14 in the football championship subdivision coaches poll, is doing everything within its power to ensure they don't consume the taste of a homecoming defeat when the Prairie View A&M Panthers come to Ken Riley Field at Bragg Memorial Stadium. Kickoff is at 4 p.m. and is televised on ESPNU. There have been some homecoming upsets this year, and we want to make sure we're not the latest one, FAMU head coach Willie Simmons, who's led his team to 5 straight victories, said. We're leaning on our leadership and encouraging those guys to reinforce the message to prepare ourselves for this game mentally. If it's just me, the message probably doesn't get across. So I've been imparting to these guys that it's going to take a group effort to make the necessary sacrifices for Saturday's game. The guys have taken heed to the message, but we'll find out on Saturday. Last time FAMU lost a homecoming game was in 2017 to North Carolina A&T, a season before Simmons' arrival as head coach. Additionally, since losing 2 home games in 2018, the Rattlers have won 17 straight games at Bragg, which is the second longest active home winning streak in the FCS. FAMU tight end Kamar Young has been there for all 17 of those wins that began during his freshman year in 2019. As Young's Rattlers play 2 more regular season home games and are still in contention to host a December 2nd SWAC championship game, he's trying to remain perfect at Bragg and on homecomings. The Tallahassee native has been a red zone threat for FAMU quarterback Jeremy Musa, with 16 catches for 217 yards and a touchdown through 7 games this season. It's personal for me because I'm in my backyard, Young, a 5th-year senior, said of winning homecoming games. I've never lost at Bragg, even with former FAMU receiver Xavier Smith, former FAMU defensive end Isaiah Land, and former FAMU quarterback Ryan Stanley. So it's big when they come back and they see that we kept the streak going. Stay focused. FAMU football players fixated on ignoring distractions of homecoming week. Saturday will be the Rattlers' nose guard Gentle Hunt's third homecoming game at FAMU. The senior sees it as an opportunity to continue a rich FAMU legacy and HBCU tradition of winning homecoming games as Rattlers of yesterday, the present, and the future pack Bragg to support the streaking football team. Hunt has 25 tackles, 10 for losses, 4.5 sacks, and a forced fumble for the FCS 7th-ranked Dark Cloud defense this season. This is one of the biggest games because all the alumni get to come back and see what they've built, Hunt said of FAMU's upcoming homecoming game. Now it's our time to show the guys that played before us that we want to invite them to the homecoming game, make them proud, and give them a great show to make sure they'll leave with a smile on their face. So the game, Florida A&M 6-1, 5-0 in the SWAC versus Prairie View A&M 3-4, 3-1 in the SWAC. Win this Saturday, October 28th at 4 p.m. past Saturday at Ken Raleigh Bragg Memorial Stadium in Tallahassee, Florida. So yes, this was the lead in to the game that was played this past weekend. And we will get information on how the outcome of that game went, all right here on In the Zone. That's right. So what I'm going to do right here, I am going to take a break. And when I come back, I got so much more I want to give you here in the zone. As we take a look at some comments made by one Dabo Sweeney during his coach's show. What did he say? Well, you have to come back after this break. Right here in the zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Welcome back to In the Zone. I am so glad you are here. It's cold outside, but I hope that wherever you're listening to this podcast at, you're staying good, warm, and toasty as I warm you up with this good content on In the Zone here. Well. What can we say about Dabo Sweeney? Too bad I don't have the audio. I could probably pull it up, but, I'm not going to do that right now. But Clemson football's Dabo Sweeney stands by response to idiot caller. I've never flinched. Clemson football coach Dabo Sweeney stood by his response to an angry caller on his Tiger Calls radio show in his weekly news conference Tuesday. Sweeney ranted on the show Monday night after a person identified as Tyler from Spartansburg asked why Sweeney was paid more than $10 million per year to go 4-4. The caller spent 2.5 minutes expressing his displeasure with Clemson's record, Sweeney's coaching hires, and more. Sweeney's response lasted 5 minutes, and he railed against Clemson fans lacking appreciation for winning 2 national titles and having 12 seasons with at least 10 wins during his tenure. He said he had never failed at anything in his life and added, "I'm where I am because I worked my ass off every single day." During his news conference Tuesday, Sweeney reiterated the key points of his rant. "I had some idiot go Old Testament on me," he said, and he got an Old Testament response. Sweeney echoed the sentiments he has expressed throughout the season, but the vocal minority of fans who have expressed displeasure about Clemson's season and missing the college football playoff for 3 consecutive seasons. As I said last night to my new friend, the caller, I've been a part of failure many times, but I ain't never failed at anything that I've set out to do in my life, he said. I'm not going to let one season damper that. I will fight for this program, and hopefully we can get back to some appreciation around here. He continued saying, "That's why no coaches take calls." Well, that might be a little bit of a stretch. There are some coaches that will take calls. That's why right there, because people hijack the phone call. They want to hear themselves talk. That's probably what we'll start doing next year. We'll go to callers, and they'll go, "Okay, Kathleen from Clemson, what's your favorite ice cream?" Sweeney was asked if his ire was directed at Clemson fans as a whole or just the 1.5% he recently cited on a different edition of Tiger Calls who create a lot of the problems because of their high expectations for the program. Most of our fans are amazing, he said. It's the loud minority that really have no clue how hard it is. I've always tried to fight against that. Don't let the expectation become greater than the purpose of what you do, because when that happens, you lose your joy in what you do. Let me read this again. He says, don't let the expectation become greater than the purpose of what you do, because when that happens, you lose your joy in what you do. Sweeney also alluded to the radio show callers' accusations that Sweeney's arrogance led him to hire friends and family rather than experienced coaches. I've never flinched, and I ain't going to flinch now, he said. I'm sitting here not because I've listened to all the criticism, all the people that want me to do this, hire this guy, hire that guy. If it don't work, I ain't got nobody to blame but myself. But I'm going to always do what I'm convicted in. And some say I'm stubborn, and I say I'm convicted in my beliefs. Sweeney ended his news conference saying that while he accepts criticism, he draws the line at personal attacks. Fair criticism is fair criticism, he said. But when it's hateful and personal and demeaning, especially to the kids on this team, as a society, we don't know where that line is. Criticism is warranted. We're 4-4. This is freaking Clemson. Ain't nobody happy. This is one of the greatest programs in the history of college football. What's happened here the last 12 years, and ain't nobody going to ever change that. If they want me back here, I'll fight like crap to get this place back to the standard. In some more news, man, this is something right here. In some more news, Deion Sanders calls on Rose Bowl to reimburse players after alleged jewelry theft during UCLA game. Colorado head coach Deion Sanders would like Colorado players to be reimbursed for what was allegedly stolen from the team's locker room during the Buffalo's loss at UCLA on Saturday night. Pasadena police are investigating after Colorado players were filmed after the game reacting to the alleged theft of jewelry and other items from the visiting locker room. Early on in his news conference on Tuesday, Sanders made it seem that few, if any, players had items stolen, had those items insured, and also said the NCAA need to take action. So let's just see what Coach Prime had to really say. Let's hear it straight from the source here.
Our kids got robbed during the game last week. I think that's a travesty, and I would expect the NCAA to do something about that. These are college kids. I'm pretty sure they don't think about insurance at this point, at this juncture in their life. We've talked about NILs and how to really maintain their finances. We've pretty much given them financial planners and giving them the resources for that. But the insurance part of it, we slipped, and we didn't really educate them on that. So I wish, I know the kids will be forthright in what was stolen, and some of our staff members as well. And now all that stuff should be replaced. This is the Rose Bowl. They said the granddaddy of them all, right? I'm sure granddaddy had some money.
Well, can't nobody say it like Coach Prime. So, you just heard his comment, so I don't need to read the manuscript on that. You heard exactly what he said. So it's unclear how the NCAA could and would take action regarding the locker room theft, or how the Rose Bowl game would be involved in a UCLA home game at Rose Bowl Stadium. There are likely surveillance cameras outside of the locker rooms at the stadium. Any footage of those is undoubtedly part of any criminal investigation. The alleged theft would be at least the second time in the last 3 seasons that a team coached by Sanders has had items taken from the locker room during a game. In 2021, during Sanders' first game at Jackson State, Sanders said he had items including his wallet and cell phone taken from a bag and items taken from his office, though an assistant had stopped the person who went after the items. After that game, Jackson State said it was thoroughly reviewing its security protocols and considered the theft an isolated incident. So that's the news you have with Dabo Sweeney and Coach Prime. Dabo Sweeney standing by his words. Coach Prime challenging the Rose Bowl, which is the granddaddy of them all. Even going as far as to say, Granddaddy got some money. So, now what I am going to do, I am going to shift around a little bit and look at the NFL trade deadline. NFL trade deadline, every deal made as 49ers strengthen Commanders offload. The NFL trade deadline has come and gone, and there were a flurry of moves on deadline day, especially along the defensive line. The San Francisco 49ers made arguably the biggest splash, trading for Washington Commanders pass rusher Chase Young, who will join his former Ohio State teammate Nick Bosa with the Niners. Elsewhere, the Commanders also sent pass rusher Montez Sweat to Chicago Bears. On Monday, the Seattle Seahawks also strengthened their pass rush by trading for New York Giants Leonard Williams. The biggest name on offense to move might have been Joshua Dobbs, who heads to the Minnesota Vikings from the Arizona Cardinals. The Detroit Lions, meanwhile, bolstered their wide receiver room by trading for Cleveland Browns receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones. And in some more NFL trade deadline news, the Bills acquire Packers defensive back Douglas. Browns trading wide receiver Peoples-Jones to the Lions. Of course, we just read that. But let's just see about this. As the Bills, if we can pull that up, and here it, well, yep, Packers defensive back Rasul Douglas is now a member of the Buffalo Bills in a trade that went down on trade deadline. So those are some of the trade talks, some of the moves that have been made on trade deadline. So now what I'm going to do, for sure right here, I am going to take another brief break. And when I come back, I will have some more for you in the zone as we are getting caught up on some of the things we might have missed and just enjoying being locked in the zone. Yours truly, Anthony Smith. We'll be right back. Welcome back to In the Zone, and it just keeps getting better and better and better and better. There's a lot that's happened today. I might not even get to everything that has happened, but I'm going to get to enough of what has happened. Still looking at some of these trades that have taken place, and can't help but to think, who were the big winners, who were the big losers? One would tend to think that with this particular trade, that it's only a matter of time that maybe Kyler Murray will be back under center. as the Vikings acquire Cardinals QB Josh Dobbs after Kirk Cousins' injury. So there you see that the Vikings did something that even the Jets, with their high-powered name, didn't do. When Aaron Rodgers got injured, they were not in no rush to find a replacement. They went with Zach Wilson. But the Minnesota Vikings have acquired quarterback Josh Dobbs from the Arizona Cardinals, the team announced Tuesday afternoon. Besides Dobbs, the trade involves only draft picks. The Vikings are sending a 2024 sixth-round pick to the Cardinals, who are sending a 2024 seventh-round pick and Dobbs back to the Vikings. This is a necessary move for the Vikings, who desperately need help at quarterback now that Kirk Cousins is out for the rest of the season with a torn Achilles. Cousins' backup are rookie Jaren Hall and veteran Nick Mullins. And while they're fine to start a single game here or there, neither one is ideal to start the next 9 games. That makes Dobbs, 28, the perfect acquisition for the Vikings right now. He's been starting in place of the injured Kyler Murray since week 1, by far the most games he's ever started in the season. His previous high was 2, a mark he set when he was with the Tennessee Titans in 2022. In 2023, Dobbs has thrown for 1,569 yards with 8 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. A career fill-in doesn't usually get to start an entire season's worth of games, but Dobbs is getting his shot. However, if he hadn't been traded, he wouldn't have started week 9 for the Cardinals. Head coach Jonathan Gannon said Monday that either Murray or Clayton Tune would start instead of Dobbs. It's not known if Dobbs will be able to start for Minnesota on Sunday when they face the Atlanta Falcons. If he's not able to get up to speed in time, Hall would likely get the ball. So there you have that information right there on Josh Dobbs moving from the Arizona Cardinals. I almost said St. Louis. Can you believe that? You know how long it's been since there's been a St. Louis football team? But yeah, the Arizona Cardinals. So just who is Joshua Dobbs? Well, if you take a look at his stats. Thus far this season, he has 1,569 yards, throwing for 196.1 yards a game, 8 TDs, has a QB rating of 81.2. So what are some things that you should know about Josh Dobbs? Well, there are at least 5 things. The Minnesota Vikings acquired quarterback Josh Dobbs from the Arizona Cardinals today in a trade that sent sixth-round pick, and they got back a conditional 7th-round pick. The move is really smart, as they essentially get a capable depth piece for free and add a player that can help them on and off the field. Kirk Cousins will be on the sidelines to help the Vikings while he recovers from his torn Achilles, but having a dual threat to help out Jaren Hall is going to make a difference. With Dobbs now joining his 7th team, here's how you can get to know the latest Vikings quarterback. First of all, Dobbs was a 4th-round pick. After starting at the University of Tennessee, Dobbs was a 4th-round pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2017 NFL Draft. He was selected as a developmental option behind Ben Roethlisberger. He was an intriguing prospect coming out. Dobbs had a lot of intrigue about him due to his dual threat ability, but wasn't able to put it all together. NFL.com's scouting report of Dobbs had him as a candidate for the bottom of the roster or practice squad and had this to say about him. Dobbs is hardly incompetent as a passer, but he hasn't shown as much growth with his ball placement and accuracy as scouts had hoped to see from this former 4-star prospect. Dobbs has decent size and is an outstanding runner outside the pocket which could appeal to a team looking for a developmental quarterback with playmaking ability. Dobbs has played for 6 teams in his NFL career. Dobbs has been a really popular option as a backup quarterback. During his career, he has been on 6 different teams prior to joining the Vikings. He only played in 16 games, and those games with the Steelers, Cardinals, and Titans. Dobbs has started 10 games. Dobbs has been a starter on 4 occasions. In the 2018 and 2020 season saw Dobbs play in 6 total games but never started a game. Once the Titans signed him, he started 2 games for them at the end of the season, including the game that decided the division. This season, Dobbs completed 62.8% of his passes for 1,569 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, while also rushing for 258 yards and 3 touchdowns across his 8 starts with the Cardinals. Dobbs has kept the Cardinals competitive. Dobbs is no secret to coming to a team and having to start games for them right away. He did so for both the Titans and Cardinals, playing both admirably and well for both teams. Having to come to the Vikings mid-season and do the same is something that he should be able to do again. So there are some of the things you need to know what you are getting from in Joshua Dobbs. Matter of fact,
Josh Dobbs to the Vikings. It's been a heck of a trade deadline day, and we are here to break it all down for you on a special edition of The Real Forno Show. I'm your host, Tyler Fornes. With me, as always, top right corner, he is English schoolboy producer Dave. Dave, how are you?
I knew it. As soon as I wanted to take a nap, the Vikings would do something.
Yep, and they did. They made 2 trades so far. And that doesn't mean that they're done. That doesn't mean anything. That just means that they've made 2 trades so far here today. And let's start breaking them down. Josh Dobbs comes to the Minnesota Vikings. As I post that we are live on Facebook here. They acquired Josh Dobbs so it's a little bit of a confusing trade. The Vikings traded a 7th round pick. They traded a 6th. They get a conditional 7th in Josh Dobbs. The conditions on that 7th are interesting, Dave. That could turn into a 6th. So this could literally be a free trade or even a better trade, as that 6th round pick could be higher than what the Vikings would have had themselves, because the Cardinals are a worse football team.
Could be. To me, it seems almost free. But anyways, I have some questions on Dobbs.
Mm-hmm.
First off, he obviously has starting experience because he's down in Arizona and has started a few games. Looking at his grades, there's nothing spectacular except for the fact that he is a mobile quarterback and can run. Is he the Sean Mannion replacement? Is Nick Mullins back worse than we thought? Or does a team think this could be an answer?
I think it's an answer for now. I don't think it's an answer long term. And Kevin O'Connell's on Sirius XM earlier today saying that they're preparing Jaren Hall to start this week and said it's possible Dobbs can be ready to play. Now, if you remember, Dobbs was traded to the Arizona Cardinals the week before week 1. So he started within like a few days, and he's done this before. So it's not like it's something that he's foreign to, where he can come in and he can pick up a playbook well enough to be able to go in there and play. I wouldn't expect Dobbs to play. I don't even know if I'd expect him to be active, because the Vikings have Manning, who's been in the system. They have Nick Mullins, who can return after this week. My guess is Dobbs would be the emergency quarterback. Manning would be elevated from the practice squad. And I think that's kind of what you're looking at. The nice part is this isn't a long-term solution. This is a short-term move. This is to get a guy in the building that because you need somebody to be a backup quarterback for you.
And there you have some comments from what is deemed the Real Forno Show. And I would definitely be keeping tabs on those guys as we look at how things will pan out for Josh Dobbs in Minnesota. And so happens, I actually know some Minnesota fans. So I would really like to get their feelings on what they think about what's going on with their Vikings. Yep, that is so true. Anyway, what I want to do is I want to kind of bounce around a little bit. I can give you an update right now in the bottom of the fourth. And if you were placing bets, you are losing big time, especially if you took the Diamondbacks. I think I did. And I'm regretting that. No, yes, I did take the Diamondbacks. Because right now, Texas in the bottom of the fourth is manhandling Diamondbacks by the score of 10-0. Ouch. That has to hurt. But what I want to do is, if I can possibly do that, I want to take a look at the first CFP, which is the college football rankings, and seeing how things are shaping up. Well, college football playoff rankings in Ohio State debuts at number 1 ahead of Michigan, Georgia, and Florida State. Interesting. Ohio State is the top team in the first set of college football playoff rankings, thanks to their wins over number 11 Penn State and number 15 Notre Dame so far this season. The CFP selection committee put the Buckeyes ahead of Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Washington. Ohio State is the only team among the 5 unbeaten teams at the top of the rankings with 2 wins over teams in the top 15. Georgia is at number 2 ahead of Michigan, likely because of its better strength of schedule, while Michigan has been the most dominant team so far. The Wolverines' opponents haven't been very good. That will change later this season. Michigan has Penn State and Ohio State remaining on its schedule. Florida State is at number 4 ahead of Washington as the Huskies have struggled the last 2 weeks. Washington needed a defensive touchdown to beat Arizona State in Week 8 and couldn't put Stanford away in Week 9. Oregon is the top team with a loss so far this season at number 6. The Ducks lost to Washington. Oregon is followed by Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss to round out the top 10. Opportunities for the top teams in Week 10. It's important not to put too much stock in the initial rankings. Teams can and will move around. Georgia was number 3 a season ago in the first rankings before it won its second consecutive national title. Bulldogs faced number 12 Missouri on Saturday before games against number 10 Ole Miss and number 17 Tennessee. It's hard to see Georgia not moving up if it wins all 3 of those games. Washington plays number 20 USC in Week 10 and also has games remaining against number 18 Utah and number 16 Oregon State. Like Georgia, the Huskies will move up if they keep winning. Florida State doesn't have any ranked teams remaining on its regular season schedule, so it may have less margin for error than other unbeaten teams. But the committee showed that it does like Louisville, as the Cardinals are at number 13 despite a loss to Pitt. No real surprises in the rankings. There weren't too many surprises in the first set of rankings. Oklahoma beat Texas earlier in the season, but was below the Longhorns because of a Week 9 loss to Kansas. The top 13 teams in the rankings all had 1 loss or fewer. LSU is the top 2-loss team in the poll as 2-loss Power 5 teams occupy spots numbers 14 and 23. AAC leader Tulane is at number 24, ahead of Mountain West leader Air Force at number 25. The race for the group of 5 5's New Year's Six Bowl spot will likely be between Green Wave and Falcons. While Air Force is undefeated, Tulane's loss came to Ole Miss and happened with QB Michael Pratt sidelined due to injury. So once again, here's the college football playoff rankings. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Michigan. Number 4, Florida State. Number 5, Washington. Number 6, Oregon. Number 7, Texas. Number 8, Alabama. Number 9, Oklahoma. Number 10, Ole Miss. Number 11, Penn State. Number 12, Missouri. Number 13, Louisville. Number 14, LSU. Number 15, Notre Dame. Number 16, Oregon State. Number 17, Tennessee. Number 18, Utah. Number 19, UCLA. Number 20, USC. Number 21, Kansas. Number 22, Oklahoma State. Number 23, Kansas State. Number 24, Tulane. And number 25, flying high above the skies, Air Force. Well, this is going to do it for me in this edition of In the Zone. I hope you have enjoyed being locked in the zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith, as much as I've enjoyed being in the zone with you. Tell you what I want you to do when you hear this podcast, wherever you listen to this podcast at, share it. Play it all the way through and share it with others. Let them know they too are invited to be locked in the zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Until the next time, take care of yourself and each other. I'm out.